the guiding topic is nature solely, outer nature, internal nature, and their kind of correspondence. And we got the conversation started by broadening the fold of what it is that we define as nature. The popular conception that I grew up with said that, you know, Yosemite National Park and Yellowstone and the mountains, as we say, are nature, and Denver and automobiles and computers and human beings are the exception to the rule, that are somehow fall outside of the fold of nature. That's just the kind of impression I got, not explicitly stated, but is sort of in the milieu of culture. And according to the larger yoga view, all of existence, anything that is an object, falls within the domain or the fold of nature. So what are some objects? You know, obviously the rocks and the trees and the rivers are certainly objects. Your body is an object. An automobile is an object. Hello. And here's the part where it starts to get kind of slippery and interesting, is your thoughts are also objects as well. So now we're starting to enter the interior dimensions or folds of this greater natural process. And the various yogic systems account for the domain of nature, both in the material sense, so the outer world, as well as subtler layers or dimensions of nature that are immaterial. Now, examples of immaterial nature that we can readily relate to are like sound, for example. You can calibrate some vibration or whatever, it can be measured in some degree, but substantively, sound is non-material. Or the light coming from the sun has a kind of liminal quality to it as well. So the yogis, in their kind of rendering of the creation, in their maps of the creation, they accounted for dimensions of nature that are not as readily perceived by the finite medium of our five senses, right? Like, simple example, we only see 0.03% of the electromagnetic spectrum. So all the rays that are coming off the sun, less than 1/2 of 1% of that actually registers within the field of our sense experience. And our sense of smell is very limited too, as is hearing, as is taste. So it's not the whole show. It's not the entire picture. It's a very, here's the point, finite vantage point. Right. And then layer in that our own particular conditioning and history and memory and desires and so forth. And you make for a very finite perspective or vantage point. What happens if you broaden that vantage point or your perspective, that your perspective grows? You know, like, oh, all this time I've been assuming a certain situation was this way, but now I have like a broader view, and I can understand it. It makes perfect sense the way things are based on this kind of broader view. Before, I was only operating from this small palette of understanding. Okay. So as the yogis say, I'm just kind of trying to use simple language here, as the yogis' view broadens, there's more kind of dimensionality. And I think just generally as we mature as human beings, there's more dimensionality to what we take into consideration as to what right action is, or what to say or what not to say, or the most skillful use of our energy at any given moment. Right? The broader our perception goes, the more, say, natural forces and kind of vantage point or perspective we can hold, the wiser we become. Right? So the yogis accounted for, in their broadening of the view, they saw into dimensions of nature that are wholly outside of the domain of our five senses and are immaterial domains or fields of existence. Like and this, in fact, according to the Vedic model, they say only 25% of the creation is material or manifest. Only, get this, only 25% of, say, existence is, in this form. And even within this form, our sense perception is, very limited in its ability to detect on this plane or this dimension. Meanwhile, there's another 75% that is, well, it's difficult to describe, And this more or less parallels the current theories about dark matter, that I think their estimation is only, somewhere closer to 30% of, I don't know how you come up with this math, but it's pretty extraordinary. 30% of existence is kind of manifest substantive material stuff that we can recognize. It's quite mysterious. It's very mysterious. And what are those subtler dimensions? And kind of who lives there? and like, how do the rules change in those dimensions? It's worth pondering. And I'll kind of close, like, in summary, I would say we can consider a view of nature coming into existence in subtle, very rarefied, almost like clouds, kind of dimension, and gradually growing more material and substantive and tangible and concrete and formulated. And it's all interwoven and interrelated, right? Like the movings of the clouds informs how creation comes into being, right? And the deep path of yoga, say, the mystical path of yoga, is to affect change in many ways, or at the very least understand the operative mechanics as far upstream of the life experience as possible, to peer into the heavens, to peer into the ethers, to peer deeply into the mystery and do your deeper work there, adjust our assumptions there, realize, glean truth, say, from the spheres. Right? And I guess this is the final point I wanted to make. And that's that this is totally normal. Little paradigm shift. Again, nature is Yosemite, city is not nature. You know, from that view, this is like heresy, right? But what I want to suggest is that our ancestors were deeply attuned to the deeper dimensions of the creation and paid homage respectively, right? And that it's not, you know, so easily dismissed as, say, woo or you know, mystical, like irrelevant. Yeah. That there's a deep functionality to understanding this process of creation in all its layers and all its strata. Okay. Um, and I guess what I would, this is my own sort of musing and reflection of late that I would offer to you is to hold a kind of regard for the deeper mystery, and as not the exception to the rule, but more like an invitation, you know, with some degree of curiosity, with um, some interest. Okay. So thank you, friends, and we'll kind of, I'll try to speak to all these themes as we, you know, navigate our bodies and navigate our breath and navigate our awareness, because the at least I mean, there's many inroads to how we approach the deeper layers of the mystery, including, you know, ritual, and including dance, and including drums, and including staying up all night, and, you know, exhaustion and fasting and psychedelics, and, you know, there's just a lot of ways that people sort of uh, uh, make inroads. And from, you know, strictly, I mean, there's many things I could say here, but a valuable tool is simply our mind, using our mind as a kind of porthole into deeper, expanded dimensions of perception.